The June 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Bayport City Council. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Matt, you want to call the roll?
Councilmember Bliss.
Here.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Here.
Councilmember Hill.
Here.
Mayor Hanson.
Here.
Just note too that Councilmember Dahl is absent tonight.
All right, thanks, Matt. Do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Thanks, Katie.
Second.
Thanks, Carl. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. There are no proclamations, commendations, petitions, or announcements. We would do the open forum. I'm not going to read it because nobody's here. The consent agenda. Consider a resolution adopting items 1 through 12. The April 15th, 2025 City Council special meeting minutes. May 5th City Council workshop and regular meeting minutes. The May payables and receipts, May building, plumbing, mechanical, and zoning permits report, memorandum of understanding for Minnesota Teamsters number 320, the police officer labor agreement, authorization for SEH to proceed with survey and engineering services for the Safe Routes to School project, the fireworks display permit for the Bayport Community Action League Derby Days at Lakeside Park, reciprocal fire services agreement with Capital City Regional Firefighters Association for the fire department, service agreement with ADP for payroll, time, and attendance services, temporary liquor license from the Afton Bayport Lakeland Lions Club for Derby Days, and participation in Minnesota Council on Local Results / Innovation Comprehensive Performance Measurement Program. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the resolution I move to adopt the resolution of approving the consent agenda as presented.
All right, thanks, Katie. Anyone want to second it or?
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Ethan. Roll call.
Councilmember Bliss.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Mayor Hanson.
Aye. All right, we technically don't have any public hearings or kind of unfinished business. It's put under new business. We're gonna consider amendments to Chapter 54 Traffic and Vehicles that we discussed at the last meeting and postponed a decision until this meeting, but then we added also a discussion on Chapter 26, Environment of the Bayport City Code of Ordinances regarding regulations for recreational vehicles, and then the summary for publication. So the environment of the Bayport City Code has the hours of operation within it, so that's why it got added and wasn't discussed last time. So Matt and Amanda are gonna present this item.
I guess I am. So there's not a lot to add from the last month's discussion, right? Again, this was geared towards more of the golf cart ordinance, but because we felt to simplify it and try and incorporate the golf cart ordinance into the current ordinance without making it real lengthy, we tried coordinating the two together and made some changes to the other parts of the recreational vehicle ordinance. So again, two of the bigger ones, or the bigger discussion points from last month that we kind of want to comment on were hours of operation, or comment from the public, right? Hours of operation and the kind of that age bracket where we talked about last time, and we did not receive actually any comments from the public. So whether they all agree or whether nobody is currently watching us, might be a combination of both. So I'm not going to go into a real discussion about it, kind of because we've already had the discussion. So unless there's specific questions from the council that we're open to answering, I know, like I said, those two items were kind of the big one, and we're open to answering those questions for you.
Okay, thanks, Matt. So I just want to reiterate the hours of operation that are written into this current ordinance that we're about possibly going to approve is all recreational vehicles are allowed to operate on private property from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. ATVs, UTVs, trail bikes that are registered with the state for highway use, and snowmobiles are allowed to operate on city streets and alleys from 6 a.m. to midnight. And then golf carts are another category, and they're allowed to operate in public streets and alleys from sunrise to sunset, provided they are not operated in inclement weather or when visibility is impaired by smoke, fog, or insufficient light to clearly see a distance of 500 feet. We didn't get any feedback other than I actually asked people that I came across that I, know have a golf cart or may be interested in this, right? Actually at the bar crawl, there were several golf carts and I got to ride in one. And so I was talking to the guy that was driving it. And apparently some of them come with headlights and all kinds of things. So, and I feel like maybe we're overlooking that, but I guess I don't understand it well enough to.
Yeah, myself or Ms. Johnson can comment on that. But the language that we provided with the 500 feet, the smoke fog, that's specific in state statute. There's also the requirement of the triangle, the slow moving triangle on the back. But if you're going to allow them after sunset, then there's more language in state statute that you need to keep put in your code, essentially.
Okay.
So that includes, I believe, working taillights, working headlights.
I saw that in the state one. I thought I put that in my notes.
And if you happen to see, I can't remember if Forest Lake had it, but if you happen to look in a different city ordinance that does allow them after sunset, then they will specifically have that language in their code, or they'll reference state statute.
Okay. All right, and then
So we're saying if they do have the lights, they're available to drive after sunset?
not the way this is written. We'd have to add more into this if we've said they could go beyond sunset or before sunrise. We'd have to put more regulations in there. Then if you do that, then you need to have headlights and you need to have all this other stuff.
So, Madam Mayor, if you don't,
Yeah.
can I add something? So
Sure.
what it was is less regulation, less oversight needed from the police department to make sure all those things are required for when they do the initial, because the golf carts will have to be registered, right? So then if we don't have to check for all of those items, it just makes it easier. And from what we've seen, I haven't seen a lot of operation of golf carts after dark.
Yeah. More discussion about hours? How are you guys feeling about that? I didn't really get feedback on the hours from anybody specifically.
I only, when I brought it up, and then I said, well, how do you feel about this part? And they were like, well, why can't we drive it on our own property longer than we could drive it in the street? So my thing would be just putting it as the, sound ordinance, So 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Because you can't, otherwise it's gonna be too loud.
So just,
Like the dirt bikes and.
so you're saying everything should go on that?
No, just on private property, I guess.
Oh, the 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
because
private
you can't have your
property?
music blaring after 10 o'clock either, so why should you, I don't know. But I feel like 9 o'clock is pretty early, especially during the summer months when it's light till 10.
So we
Kids
could,
are in school.
yeah, so we could simplify it and say that they're allowed to operate on private property within the hours,
Yeah,
what's it called, the sound,
The sound ordinance,
what's the ordinance? quiet
Noise.
noise
Noise
ordinance hours. So in case those change, you don't have to go and change this. Oh, is that not clear enough? I mean, I see your point.
Yeah. And then they also, one person was like, well, so do I have to park it in my street and not drive it in my yard and put it in my backyard where I put it? I'm like, well, I don't think they're going to be that picky about it, but
Yeah.
I think it's more about the neighbor next door that's just going on all hours on their dirt bike.
But I guess it is, so the 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. is still within, so the noise ordinance goes beyond that, right? Like
Yeah.
you could start earlier and go later if it actually followed the noise. I kind of, I don't know. I could go either way. I'm okay with it. Just because we got zero, like anyone really balking about any of it, it's kind of hard to change it. You know, they put a lot of thought into this, but when they wrote it, right? And what are you guys on this end thinking? You're just sleepy from the workshop? You can't.
No.
Okay.
I'm still a little hung up on exactly that scenario of not being able to drive it to my garage. Just the concept of the hours, whether or not we enforce it. You know, I'm the kind of guy who, even in April, if there's no snow, I'm making sure my car's on the right side of the road just because I want to follow the letter of the law. And so I'd love to have the letter of the law be as followable as possible.
I like that new word you invented.
Followable?
Followable.
Yeah.
So do you have a suggestion for how it would change then? The way it's written?
Madam Mayor,
Yeah,
can I comment? So,
of course.
as Councilmember Bliss mentioned, right? I mean, enforcement would be the biggest deal here, right? So if you're reasonably following these hours, and even if you're operating potentially after those hours, if you're not taking advantage of it, or it's not impeding on your neighbors, there's not an issue here. We're not going to actively go around, except probably for the golf cart portion, right? That's sunrise to sunset. We're probably not actively going around and trying to find people who are, oh my gosh, using their recreational vehicles on private property after 9 p.m. So some of this might play out. Do we just set these and then see if we have any issues that arise? I mean, because we could nitpick, do we do 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.? Why can't we do 7 on the weekdays? And I mean, we could have all kinds of arguments here.
Well, if we go too far into it, then people that work the third shift would be like, well, I don't want people driving between 7 and noon because I have to sleep during that time. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't.
Will this be complaint based too? Like
Yes.
the same with everything, except for maybe driving in the street. If you're breaking the street laws, you're obviously gonna get pulled over, but you're not. It's gonna be complaint based. Okay.
Like you mentioned, Councilmember, especially the private property portion, right? I mean, are we coming on to people's property if they happen to be going at 8 a.m.? No, but if we receive a complaint, then we have
Yeah, you'll
guidance.
have to.
Yes.
I mean, because some people might be starting yard work and they're using their UTV to help drag the stuff along.
And I would say in those circumstances, it's
it's
not
hard.
being used as a recreational
Yeah.
vehicle, right? It's being used as something you're doing gardening or stuff like that with. So
Madam Mayor, may I?
Please.
As always with these city ordinance complaints, we generally start off with a real educational side of it because not everyone watches these meetings. They may not be like Councilmember Bliss and be aware of all the laws and want to follow them. So a lot of times we will educate the first time around. Now, if this is a constant repeat violation and we get complaints from neighbors, then we would be able to address it from that standpoint. But early on, we would be strictly educational. So
Yeah.
we always try and take a common sense approach to most city ordinance complaints. But it is nice that when it becomes a habitual problem, that then we do have the teeth to back it up. So my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just the parking that I ignore all kinds of others. So.
I appreciate that.
Thanks. Yeah, is there a way to align public street use and private property use just so that issue can go away?
Is there something about snowmobiles at like the state level that they can operate from 6 a.m. to 12 a.m.? Is that why we've had that window? We just created that window. Okay.
Well, if you're going out ice fishing and you're taking your thing, you might leave before 6 o'clock.
Maybe it's.
I know, right? There's all these what ifs.
Maybe we need to be better about just, instead of using the term operate on private property, is that kind of the hang up? It's more about like recreating with them on private property. You know what I mean? Like, did you guys go through this already? Like what the best verb was? Or I'm wondering if that's the hang up, because that's kind of what we're talking about, right? We don't want people whipping around in circles in their yard on their recreational vehicles.
Are people doing that?
Yeah, there are people doing that. Not on our side of the highway, but the other side of the highway, it happens in at least one yard. Yeah. And I've heard from a neighbor already about it, so.
I hate to make a bunch of rules for one person, but
Right.
you know how I feel about that.
Yeah. Well, I think right now, this would end up restricting them more from doing that, because right now I'm sure it's just within the noise ordinance hours. So,
And that's more a
I don't know.
principle. I trust the enforcement. I trust the.
yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's kind of doesn't sit well when it doesn't like kind of all line
Yeah.
up. I feel the same way, but I can't come up with a good solution.
Yeah, like you can operate in between 6 and 12, but you have to make sure it's under the decimals of our noise ordinance.
Yeah, and that's really hard to measure.
Right?
That's the problem.
Yep.
Okay, so we have no suggested changes to what we have written because no one can come up with anything better, so.
Other than aligning it with that 6 to 12. But,
Oof.
yeah.
But then at 10, you can still get them with the noise.
Which the chief has explained.
In your
is-
backyard,
is
though.
hard. It's hard to enforce that.
It's very hard to enforce that.
Madam Mayor, the noise ordinance is not necessarily dealing with recreational vehicles, though, if I remember correctly. Right, sir?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, there's 2 chapters that we're looking at. So the chapter 54 is the one that we reviewed last month. And then chapter 26, environment, has a specific section in there regarding the hours of operation of recreational vehicles. And those hours are consistent with chapter 54 that we've been discussing. So it was brought to staff's attention that we either need to align these two or possibly just get rid of chapter 26 and then lay out the hours of operation that are allowed in chapter 54.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
Just a quick point of reference for noise violations. Those are generally going to run through the MPCA requirements. And so from a perspective of enforcement, you have to get a testing device from the MPCA to confirm your noise levels. So from a practical perspective, being able to, go out there in real time and do something related to a motorbike or a ATV is going to be very difficult for the city to do.
Yeah, agreed. I didn't even realize or think about this contradiction that chapter 26 has different hours. that's actually the noise ordinance hours that we. So does staff suggest just eliminating this chapter 26, section 26-30? That's what you would say? If we're gonna do this, then we just eliminate
Madam Mayor,
this,
yes.
right? Okay. That makes sense now. I can tell how closely I read the hours thing again when I got my packet. Okay. I am, so that's 10 to 8 versus 9 to 9.
I think the use case that we're talking about and is that driveway moment. Like we're not going to ticket somebody for pulling into their driveway and pulling into their garage and going home, but technically they're operating on private property outside of the hours we've allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Which I feel like there's a simple wording that's well above me that can be that can address that, but
I mean, it's not like it's set in stone. If we set it and something's goofy and it's a nightmare, then we can come back and look at it and change it. It's not.
we can.
You know, it's. I didn't realize it was a huge issue, but
It isn't.
It's not a huge issue, but
And Madam Mayor, members of council, I think common sense has to play somewhat of a role, right? I
yeah.
mean,
Okay.
you're going from the road into your garage or into the shed, right? It's
Yep.
not, we're going into the backyard and going around at midnight or 11 p.m. So
sounds like keeping it as is and then getting rid of the 26 or what?
I'm okay with that. And it sounded like John Dahl was okay with keeping, what do you call it, paragraph 3 or whatever, under operation as it is too, about hours. And we didn't really talk about the chapter 26, but I assume he'd want to get rid of that if it contradicts, so.
yeah, Madam Mayor, John was, as you remember, he was kind of outspoken about last month about everything being sunrise to sunset, but he had indicated earlier today that he was okay with the hours as written.
Okay. Should we move on to age?
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments about the age?
Yeah,
Which is now you have to be 18
Yeah,
with a valid driver's license.
I could use that sales pitch one more time on 18 versus
Yeah, can you
a licensed
explain,
driver.
maybe, is it Amanda? Can you explain to us why, because we are all like, why can't they be 16 and have a driver's license? But there's some weird thing going on there that you can explain.
Yes, Your Honor. So in the state statute, it says that if you permit that 16, 17-year-old to drive on city streets with the ATVs or the recreational vehicles, that you cannot require that they have a driver's license because they would have the permit through the DNR to operate the machines. I do not know why that made it into the statute, but it is in the statute that you cannot require that they also have a driver's license. So if largely from an enforcement perspective, it's a little bit nuanced and more complicated for a police department to enforce when they don't have a driver's license and they have this other DNR permit. And it's so just to keep it simple, it was 18 is when you get to start to drive these, because then the permit is a moot point, because that special DNR permit is just for operators under the age of 18.
Okay. So how strongly do we feel that 16 and 17-year-olds who have the DNR permitting should be able to drive on city streets or alleys?
I would change the hours before I would change that. I
Okay.
mean, say they just changed the boat law to 21, and then if you're anyone under 21 has to have a water safety or a watercraft license, so or permit or whatever it is. So
So we're saying a kid can drive a car or a giant truck that's 16, but can't drive a mini bike.
Well,
Or
for
an
a car, you
ATV
go
or-
through, training. For the other thing, you don't really have to go. You can just go and get a license. You don't really have to show them that you know how to work the streets.
I suppose.
So yeah, what does the DNR permitting process entail? Do we know what they go through?
It involves a written test and not a road test, an off-road test. It's largely for off-road use, and it teaches kids how to cross over roads and things like that. And it does some education around the hand signals, the arm out, those kinds of things. But from a rules of the road perspective, they certainly aren't going to have the same amount of education that you would get in a behind the wheel class when you get your driver's
But I would imagine most 16-year-olds that are driving these recreational, they probably have a driver's license as well.
They probably do. We just can't require that they do.
This hurts my brain.
I know.
It's a very bizarre statute.
It
I do
is.
not what legislature's kid talked them into putting that into the statute. I'll never know, but I'm pretty certain it was.
Jay, do you have any opinions on it?
I would lean more towards till 18, just because if we don't know if they have the DNR permit, the rules of the road. I mean, largely, are we seeing a bunch of ATVs cruise down the road? No. But do I want to see them either? Not necessarily. I do understand your argument about if they can drive a car, then they should be able to drive an ATV.
I'm probably more hung up on that than I am the hours of operation.
Me too.
But you can drive them in your property at your.
No, I don't know if whoever is listening to this could hear Jay because he's in the audience, but he was saying sticking with the minimum of 18 would be his preference for a couple of reasons. So, I don't know. I worry about the safety of someone who's 16 and doesn't have a driver's license, not knowing all the rules of the road, and we don't have stop signs for other reasons, and I just feel like it's an accident waiting to happen, but I
feel
don't
like
know.
a 16-year-old knows what a stop sign looks
Well, I know.
We just
I
don't- we just
know,
don't
but
have
that's
them.
we don't have them, so they're just going to be cruising along and not. I almost got hit by another car on the way here, actually, but I know it's
So-
just.
We can't. That is strange. That 16.
I know. I
you
wish
don't
we
have
could
to
just
have a
require
license.
the driver's license. That would make me feel so much better. I guess I would lean towards let's go with the way it's written now and see what kind of pushback happens or what goes on. Because I don't think people are realizing that we're even though we said we'll give you another month to tell us what you think about this, I feel like.
And you've been proactively seeking out stakeholders. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, and I mean, there was kind of this like, well, why shouldn't a 16-year-old be able to? And I said, well, it's this complication of the way the state has the rule written, and I think that is going to be a little bit of a bummer for some of the families that have golf carts or whatever, but I don't know. I don't feel comfortable allowing
to
it.
16.
You
We
can.
can.
But you just can't say that they have to have a valid driver's license.
We could say that they have to have a valid driver's license or
Or DNR certification,
permit.
permit, whatever that is.
Madam Mayor, I have a question for Attorney Johnson. So can we require that they have, so what about for golf carts? Can we require that they have an ATV certification essentially to also drive a golf cart if they're 16 and 17?
It's a good question.
I don't believe that the UTV certification is a requirement for golf carts. They're a separate thing under the statute, right? So they're governed under different provisions.
Right.
One thing to keep in mind, even though the individual does not need to have a driver's license, they are still required to follow every single rule of the road, right? That doesn't give them a pass for not stopping at stop signs or not following the speed limit. And they are still eligible for tickets if they, violate or drive recklessly or carelessly or whatever. It's just we can't require a driver's license.
And the only thing I would point out there is I don't think we want separate items for golf carts and ATVs and UTVs, right? No. Then law enforcement all of a sudden is like, who wrote this ordinance? So
Yeah, and then we're chasing whatever new vehicle is created in the next 10 years.
Yeah, I would like to change it to 16 and say have a driver's license.
Yeah, but I don't think we should involve the 16 and 17-year-olds in this. I think we leave it as it is. That's how I'm leaning now. I think they can get a bicycle if they want to get around.
I mean, they could get a moped still, right? That doesn't count as a moped.
Correct.
Is like a real vehicle, correct? Because it's street legal and you drive, they get to really fast now.
if the moped is street legal,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
What about
This
one of
shouldn't
those,
be so hard.
Yeah, I know. What a skateboard or something. One of those, isn't there like one
Like
wheel? What are those
electric bike,
one wheel
yeah, one
things?
wheel.
Yep.
Okay. I would say let's just go with what has been written. I don't
Like,
think
what
we have
about-
any better solutions.
What about like a stand-up electric scooter? I mean, they're flying down the road too.
Exactly. They got enough dangerous things they can do. They don't need to be in the golf cart.
The golf cart's safer than all.
I know.
Yeah.
But we can't. We have like no
What
good
is
way
it? What is it
to-
now? What is our policy now? Or
We don't
ordinance
have
now?
one.
We have nothing
about a golf cart.
about a golf cart.
So the reason that we took this on is because currently we don't have one, which means that we have to follow state statute, which doesn't allow, unless you have a registration process and can register golf carts, they're not allowed to be on city streets. So in order to technically make it legal, rather than just looking the other way, which we have done, we need this in place.
And so we're not. So now, as a golf cart owner, you're not required to register it with the state.
The city.
No, you're required to register with the city. That's a requirement of state statute.
Oh, so you do have to.
Yes. We didn't make the rules complicated. We were just following somebody else's guidance.
I missed a little last meeting, I think, because I'm a little behind on this because I wasn't here.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion, or do you want to keep talking about it, or what are you thinking?
Circles.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go buy a golf cart after this
and register it.
and register it in the city.
And how old are your kids?
15. They're out.
They're out. Okay, let's move this along, people. What do you want to do? Nobody wants to do anything. Everyone's afraid to make the motion, or what?
I'll move to adopt an amendment to Chapter 54, Traffic and Vehicles of the Bayport City Code of Ordinances regarding regulations for recreational vehicles and summary for publication.
Thanks, Ethan.
I second.
All right, thanks, Katie. We need a roll call because we're making ordinances here.
Councilmember Bliss.
Oh, shoot.
You want me to start on the other end?
No, it's fine. Aye.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Mayor Hansen.
Aye. Okay. Does anyone want to move to adopt an amendment to Chapter 26, Environment of the Bayport City Code of Ordinance regarding regulations for recreational vehicles and summary for publication? And the amendment would be to get rid of it?
I thought that's what we were doing.
Yep. I move to
You can just
adopt the amendment to Chapter 26, deleting it in its entirety.
Does anyone second
I
that?
second.
Okay. Thank you, Carl and Katie. Roll call.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilmember Bliss.
I
Mayor Hansen.
Aye.
I see what you did there.
I made the motion on that one. That was easy.
Okay, so at least we got rid of some part of the ordinances. You like that? Okay, city council liaison reports. Carl's not in the mood to start.
I'll
so-
start.
Oh, you will? Okay.
Yeah, mine's easy.
Okay, good.
The Lake Elmo Airport Citizens Advisory Commission meets next week, so we didn't meet this
Oh,
month.
see, that's why you
We
wanted.
will meet next week in Baytown. The public is welcome.
It's very fun. If you got nothing better to do. Just kidding. Okay, thank you. Ethan, how about cable commission?
No, we did not meet. I've got a meeting, I think in July is my next one.
Okay, probably after our meeting. Oh no, we meet late, so maybe not. Okay, Katie, Bayport Community Action League.
Yeah. The bar crawl went well. Ice cream social and garage sales are coming up. So this Wednesday, 2 days from now, 6 p.m. at Lakeside Park, we'll have our ice cream social. Mayor Michelle will be there. Carl, John, and I will be there. And then a couple of the churches are going to be helping scoop. Bring food because it's a food for the food pantry. We're taking food in. And the library is having house band play the event. Also on June 9th, the Monday, farmers market starts 3 to 7. There's fun things so you can go on and see what's going on every week there going on. And Derby Days is, they got their band, they're picked a winner of their t-shirt so you can go on their Facebook page and see the winners. And
Who's the
that-
band? Oh, but they picked it.
Yeah, they got somebody.
Ask Mary Tickner, she
Yeah, Mary will know. She's the one that did it. Next meeting is
Saturday.
June 19th at the Legion at 6 o'clock if anybody wants to go.
All right, and just one additional thing at the ice cream social, if you have used eyeglasses laying around, the Lions will be there with a box. So you don't have to go to the library or the bank, you can just bring them with you. Okay, and then this seems like it was a really long time ago, but we all were at the groundbreaking for the elementary school, and that was, I think, the day right after city council or something. So that was a very small event, but nicely done. There were some photos, I think, online of that. Simon and I had a little touch base with the people doing the walkability study for us back on the 8th of May, and hopefully things are still moving along. They were gonna kind of get out in the field and start putting all the information together, including the responses from the survey that we did and some of our feedback about what we saw as like hot spots to make sure that they include in their study. Oh yeah, I met with Rick Heidick from Sustainable Stillwater. See, I hadn't mentioned that yet. To talk a little bit about EV charging stations and the need for them in this area. And then we actually talked about that at our workshop today. And we're gonna start doing a little more research on that and partnering with the library. Went to the Bayport Bar Crawl. Great job, Bayport Community Action League. Fun, super fun as always. And thanks to all the participating businesses. They always do a great job of making sure everyone has a good time. I went to a information session that the chamber put on the 12th about the new paid leave that's starting that we all have to worry about and how that might affect us as sort of a small business that we are here, and then how it affects other small businesses in our community. Like, for example, Mabel's, who's very small, doesn't really affect them, which is good to a certain extent, right? They don't have to worry about it because of the size of their business. So I just wanted to clarify some of those things that I had heard. Regional Council Mayor's meeting this past month was about the weather and climate. We had a couple speakers on that. News is not great. We're going to continue to probably have all these hazy days of more wildfires and everything going on. And then Ryan Long, the president of Excel Energy in Minnesota and the Dakotas area, came and spoke to the mayors and kind of gave an update on how things are going. Interesting, he had a slide that said the L&S King plant was in Bayport, but we all know it's not. So I think I mentioned, I think it has something to do with the post office and their mailing addresses in Bayport. But anyways, still not a lot of plan for, they still don't know exactly what's going to happen on that site. So looking forward again to the next stakeholders meeting. Maybe we'll know more. They're not sure about what they need to keep and what they don't need for the solar to come through there. So fire relief, nothing super significant there. Everything's, even though the fund isn't making a ton of money, we're still doing okay right now. Chief Jackson worked with First State Bank and Trust and did a scam trends and prevention tactics presentation again, this time very well attended by a lot of people. I don't know, did you count how many came? It was, yeah, I'd say 30 to maybe more than that over at Community Thread in Stillwater. They did a great job. The crowd was very engaged. Everybody wanted to share their stories, just like when you go to kindergarten and we're like, this happened to me. So it was fun. And then I attended a little over 2 days worth of fire chief interviews. Thank you, staff, for organizing all of that and participating. Stu Glazier, the fire chief from Stillwater, helped us out with those interviews as well. And Jason Severson and Josh Eisinger from the fire department were there. And then for second interviews, we had Chief Jackson join us. Attended the library board meeting, my other liaison, and Matt came to visit. And we discussed budgeting and the non-union staff salary reviews and all of that that's going to be happening. Also, that's where I kind of brought up the EV charging idea with the library board to see if they were interested in pursuing that. And it seems like everybody's on board. They had actually thought about it at the time they did the remodeling. That was going to be part of their project, but we were in talks at that time with another company that was going to be coming in and doing that, and that all fell apart. Memorial Day parade and ceremony was there with Carl. Mm-hmm. It was great. Thank you, Jim Menard, who said he's only got a couple years left in him, so he's got to be working on a succession plan there. Did a few chamber events, including a coffee talk for Relay for Life, the ambassador team meeting, chamber mixer at Locale Makers Market, which is where the creator of Dots across the street has her art displayed. If you want to go down and check it out, it's down on Main Street in Stillwater. And I did a quick little video as the ambassador for the city of Bayport. We did a little spotlight video that was a minute. She made me sit right here and talk about our fine city. I have not seen it online yet, but that'll be fun when that comes out. Leadership in the Valley graduated, was able to attend every day. Thank you very much for allowing me to do that, City of Bayport. I learned a lot and made a lot of really good connections. And then finally, if I can get through it without being emotional, because that's how I am. Mary McComber's funeral will be on Friday. Oh, sorry. I considered Mary a mentor and a friend. And she was a great advocate for Oak Park Heights and all small cities in Minnesota. Her upbeat nature and her determination will really be missed, so I'm sorry. But it's just, yeah, just not fair. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks. That's a lot to the Valley.
Yeah, it was huge.
All right, we'll move on to staff reports. Chief Eisinger.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. For May, our call volume was 96 compared to 124 in 2024. 2025 year to date was 494 compared to 503 in 2024. Monthly drills were drafting and water relay, car fire simulator that we use down at Public Works. Thank you, Simon, for letting us use that area. Fire inspections are ongoing as well as new plans. Past meetings, Washington County Fire Chiefs, Anderson Kindergarten Station Tour. That is always fun. A gazillion questions they have. It's fun. The bike to school day, we had Memorial Day parade with no rain, which was great. The anniversary for this month is Dave Pernick, 8 years. Upcoming events, we got Party in the Park, Oak Park Heights. We're gonna try to get a truck out to your ice cream social on Wednesday. We will be doing an escort for Mayor McComber funeral from Bradshaw over to the Fairview Cemetery.
Nice.
I know PD is gonna also help with that. We have safety camp coming up. Sorry, Jay, I forgot the date. I think it's the 14th, isn't it? You'll have it. 14th. Yeah. And then the food truck extravaganza out at the fairgrounds. With that, I'll stand for questions. That's what I like. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Chief Jackson.
I forgot Alan helped with interviews too. He gave tours.
Madam Mayor, council members, a few things to report. Our increased speed enforcement will continue. The Safe Roads grant that we've been operating on with overtime will be coming to an end at the end of the month. We'll obviously continue our normal enforcement as we have, but we will miss the increased enforcement activity. The other things that we have here, as the mayor mentioned, we did the senior fraud seminar at the community thread, well attended. It was great. It was a really good event that had a lot of interesting questions, and we gave out some resources, and collaborating with the bank was really helpful. So thank you to them, as well as the community thread. Also, we did the Memorial Day parade. Thank you to all my staff for coming in on most of their days off. It's kind of an all hands on deck to make that happen. Special thank you to Simon and his staff, working well with us, getting all the streets covered and everything taken care of. It's a pretty big event for all of us to get done. Also, thank you to Jim Menard for his many, many years of doing it. He keeps telling us he's winding down. We'll see. I think I might retire before he does, so we'll see. But thank you, Jim. We also did 2 kindergarten tours this week of the police department, and that was well received here, kind of the end of the year thing we do every year. We'll be attending the ice cream social as well. And then safety camp, July 14th and 15th. It's a new date. We've been trying to tell people as much as we can. It is $50. Lunch is provided both days. It's grades 2nd through 6th grade. This year we'll be featuring first aid, internet safety, bullying, survivor skills, some fire safety. Jill from the library is going to do an escape room again this year. There will be a canine demo. Let's Go Fishing will be there as well. And then the Nature Center will have some exhibits with birds, snakes, and turtles. So it should be a good event this year, as always. And then obviously Night to Unite on August 5th. With that, I will stand for questions.
Nicely done. Thank
And
you.
I did just see a golf cart over at Maples.
Did you?
They're everywhere.
You were 18.
18-year-old?
I couldn't tell from here.
Better get over there.
All right, Public Works Director Worth, who happens to be his last meeting tonight, and like to thank him for his time here, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, City Administrator Klein. I really appreciate that, and it's been truly a privilege serving for Bayport. I've learned a lot, and one thing this town has a reputation for being a very well-oiled machine, and I got to see that firsthand, and it's fantastic. So keep up the good work, Bayport. It's truly been a pleasure. Again, I'd like to echo what Chief Jackson said, thanking everybody for their input on the Memorial Day Parade. Town looked fantastic. I mean, what a beautiful little town this is driving through. It was really impressive. Hanging baskets all down 95 now. It's coming together. Ash tree removal has begun. Requests for quotes were sent out to companies, tree removal contractors. One thing I just wanted to mention about that is there are a lot of ash trees that are dead throughout town. We understand that. We have a pretty generous budget on an annual basis of about $30,000 to $40,000 for trees. We do try to get as many as we can. There's a lot of them. With that being said, we have budget for about 30, and that's to replace them as well. So if you see one that's dead, please let us know, certainly. I can't guarantee you that we're going to take care of it this year. Chances are, if it has a number on it with a pink ribbon around it at this point, it's going. That's one that's on the quote list. So if you do see one that's in the boulevard, please let us know. We will keep a list tallied for ongoing removal. We're getting there. There's a lot of ash trees in town. Also would encourage homeowners to start taking care of their own trees if they're dead in their yard, because I know it's expensive, and it's definitely a gut punch when you have to remove a tree, but it's just a nuisance, and your neighbors would appreciate it, I'm sure. Last thing I want to mention is the beach retaining wall at Lakeside Park has been completed. It's gorgeous. I'd like to thank Coos Contracting for doing that work. He was in and out in a couple of days. Once things green up with the grass, it's going to be beautiful. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's meant to be there. It's kind of a nice gateway into Bayport from the beach. I'd encourage everybody to go check it out. And with that, I stand for questions.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you. Big thank you to, the last couple of years. Thank you for everything. And the wall does look nice. I've seen it from both sides, from the riverside and from the beach, and he did a nice job. He actually graduated with my son, Tyler Cruz, and now he's got his own business.
He's a young guy, and he's hungry.
So nicely done. It does look more natural, and I like that I saw people sitting on the wall now. It's kind of a cool place to do that, and having the opening to the beach was a great idea too, where it's more wide. So thank you. Hopefully the grass grows in after that nice rain we got. And you're not going to talk about the sidewalk saw cutting? You don't want to talk about it? I think
it's simple
mention
enough.
it. People don't read this packet.
I figured people
on the
do.
air. They might watch it at least.
The same company that's doing the walkability study, Safe Step. They completed their sidewalk cutting. They do 1/6 of the city annually. So there's a 6-year rotating basis. All of the sidewalks are surveyed, cut down. We've completed the first 6 years. So every piece of sidewalk has been touched to the threshold that we set up to begin with. Now we're lowering that threshold. So they're gonna go around town again every year and try to get 1/6 of the city, and we'll just keep at it. And it's certainly a lot cheaper than replacing sidewalk panels at this point, and it seems to be working well. So.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Assistant City Administrator Taylor.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, a planning commission meeting will be held on Monday, June 23rd at 6 p.m. Agenda items include a final plat and plan unit development plan for Bay Haven development by Pratt Homes, variances and conditional use permits related to the Riverway and floodplain regulations for 10 Point Road, 13 Point Road, and 297 Lake Street. And then finally, we have some zoning ordinance amendments, which include the impervious surface credit for decks and stairs that we've been discussing over the past few years, and then regulations for recreational vehicles and recreation camping vehicles to tie in with the ordinance that was adopted this evening. The next edition of the city's newsletter is in process, slated for distribution mid-June. Also, the new city website is taking shape, which is anticipated to be presented to the city council for feedback in later this month or early July. Finally, the hiring process continues for both the fire chief and the public works director positions. Staff hopes to have an update for the city council in the coming weeks. That's all I have. I stand for questions.
So what is the planning commission doing with chapter 54 about the recreational vehicles?
Madam Mayor, not necessarily chapter 54, but there are regulations
to be
in the
consistent
zoning
with it.
Yeah,
I get it.
zoning ordinance. Yeah.
So there's other things that they need to.
Definitions we've updated
Okay.
to be consistent. Couple of there's no distinction right now between a recreation vehicle and a recreation camper.
Oh.
So we thought that probably should be
Kind of a
clarified.
big difference. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, sir. My report, just make it as short as possible here so we can get out and try and get a shower outside. They're working on Bayport Elementary, obviously. They have the footings installed, and they're making pretty good progress. Last I heard, they were ahead of schedule, except for the parking lot, or the temporary parking lot, where the initial opening for that had been the 1st of June. It does, last I heard, June 9th was the plan for the temporary parking lot. So that's the gravel parking lot of where the old parking lot was. So, as everybody knows, I'm sure by now, the Stillwater Prison closure. So city staff has somewhat been in contact with DOC staff, but we really only know as much as everybody else. The hope is that we'll be working closely with them on the process moving forward and all the timing and stuff like that. But at this point, we know just about as much as what every citizen does. The League of Minnesota City Salary Survey, as mentioned earlier tonight, the survey will be used to develop potential changes to salaries of non-union staff moving forward. That survey comes out June 17th, and I'll hopefully have an update at the June 23rd budget workshop that we're going to hold in order at least to have some idea of how it might impact the 2026 budget. And so that leads into 2026 budget preparation. Again, I mentioned the June 23rd date. So there'll probably be preliminary discussion on next year's budget, CIP discussion. We don't have a lot of capital items planned for next year. And then a review of the 2024 financial management plan, and potential state impacts to the budget. With that, stand for questions.
Just to follow up on the fire chief position, we still have not solidified that with any of the candidates, just so in case anybody's wondering. Still in the process of figuring that out. So, and then we'll start public works director interviews tomorrow. All right, anyone have any items or announcements they'd like to make? Otherwise, we can make a motion to skedaddle.
Thank you, Simon, for your years here. You'll be missed.
Yeah.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure, and I'm sure I'll see you around town.
Yeah.
Hope so. All right.
I move
Gotta
to skedaddle.
come and check out your new lights that go up on Fifth Avenue.
I'll be
and all
checking
that.
them
Yeah,
out.
okay, all right. Sorry, go ahead, Carl.
Or does I move to skedaddle?
He moves to skedaddle.
Move to
Second.
adjourn?
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's get out of here. Sounds like